Hello. Um, it's day 2, and it's 1 day, 12 hours, 14 minutes, and 10 seconds that I have since my very last cigarette. And yesterday, as I suspected, the first day is always the hardest because unless you can make it through the first day, you don't really have that set confidence that you can make it another day. So, yesterday, I ended up having 16 sprays of the 1 milligram Quick Mist Nicorette spray. Each spray is 1 milligram of nicotine, and with the double patches, just like I have on today. There you go. So I had a total calculated 58 milligrams of nicotine, and of course the patch, as it's after the first 8 hours, begins to slowly wean down. The frequency of using the spray increased as the patch was getting closer and closer to its expiration. So that's to be expected. Yesterday was really a dissatisfying day. To function as I did was tolerable, because for the most part I'm using high levels of nicotine to abstain from smoking, so the physical withdrawals that I would have otherwise had to deal with were taken care of. But there was just an overall sense of just dissatisfaction with the day, and so it was a challenging day because I found myself watching the clock, looking at how many hours was left within that day. So that's probably another good tip, is to hide the clock, because I know in my cold turkey attempts before, I would hide the clock because I know I don't have a good sense of time in my head, and the longer time went on, the more distorted my sense or perception of time would be, and then I wouldn't notice the minutes go by, and my distortion would get bigger and bigger and more misappropriated, and sometimes I wouldn't notice 20 minutes going by and so forth. So hiding the clocks might be a good idea for you. I don't know. So these are the challenges. Okay, let me see here. Okay, you can see that up there. That's basically the wave function of your day-to-day smoker. When you have smokes, let's imagine you have your first smoke, and then your nicotine blood level drops. So it dips down like this. And then because smoking is a way of putting nicotine in your blood faster than if you were to inject nicotine into your blood with a needle, it pops right up. So you get that great relief, because you go from feeling shitty to feeling great in a matter of seconds. And then over half an hour, 40 minutes, it dips down again and then pops up when you have your next cigarette. So what you're looking at is a basic sawtooth pattern. But if you'll notice here, you have peaks of feeling a sense of relief, right? So psychologically, you get used to those peaks, and you don't worry so much because you have cigarettes on you, so you know that when you need them again, when it becomes noticeable or uncomfortable, you'll just go out and grab another cigarette. So you always have that constant psychological reassurance. And it's that wave function I think the brain really gets used to. And I think that it's that wave function that becomes addictive in its own. Because with the patch, see, this is how the patch functions. For the first 2 hours, the patch will slowly go up in blood nicotine levels, first 2 hours, and then it will peak at its nominal levels for the next 6 hours, and then after a complete 8 hours, it begins to decrease. So while you're on the patch, you know, for the first, say, half the day, you're feeling okay, but then the other half of the day you start feeling cravings start to intensify. So and it's very hard psychologically for the brain to get used to that type of wave function. And yesterday, what was hardest for me was getting used to the transition, because bedtime was coming up about midnight. I went to bed. So that meant that my patch was tapering off with very little nicotine to provide me. It was expiring its lifespan. And then I had to put a new patch on, which meant another 2 hours before that patch would reach its nominal levels. So that wave function looks like that. And so it dips down like this and goes back up like that. Fortunately, I went to bed so that I was asleep for that time that second patch, new patch, was reaching its nominal levels again. So that's the thing about the patch, is you really got to coordinate the timing of it. And I know I really try to take a scientific approach to this. Here's my notes from today and yesterday. I think for us, the hopelessly addicted, we really have to document everything that works for us and take a lot of notes, because we really need a clear and depth understanding of why we're so hopelessly addicted. So my stance has always been to dissect the overall addiction, you know. So right now, for the first 2 weeks, I'm just going to wear my 2 patches and take whatever Nicorette products that I need to, just to psychologically get over this idea that I don't physically need a cigarette to hold and inhale, you know, and try to get over that hump. So I mean, just like yesterday, I found myself daydreaming about the cigarette and thinking about it quite a lot, actually. And I found there's some correlation between my craving, my withdrawal, and thinking about a cigarette. And when I mentioned that first wave function, the sawtooth wave function, I think my brain has made a physical connection to the action of smoking a cigarette. So I think, because people use the word psychological like it's an abstractive thing, but psychological is actually physical neurons that have grown within our brains. So if we have psychological challenges, those are real physical connections that exist in reality in our brains. So and that's the whole part of this addiction, as it were. So I have to force I just have to get through this. but I think documenting everything is critical. Um, I have a cup of coffee here, and today I'm gonna try my best to do the dishes. Our dishes have just piled up like crazy, and um, it's gonna be a challenge because I think quitting isn't just staying away from a substance, but rather I think quitting is adapting a new psychology, relearning how to think, relearning how to live. So it's a complete change in lifestyle. So yeah, it'll take me a few hours to do these dishes. So I'm gonna try that. Um, I can't really find the words to describe that dissatisfaction I had yesterday. Um, I just felt gross in a psychological sense. It's the problem with translating my experience to you is that words just don't do it justice. Um, so I also find myself getting sad about the idea of never being able to have a cigarette. Um, in a few days, I might try an electronic cigarette to mimic the the smoking action of having a cigarette. I don't know yet. Right now, I'm just staying away from it. But uh, yeah, so it's challenging. Um, so and of course, I'm always worried about overdosing on nicotine. So I've read up on the symptomology of that, and if I start having symptoms of that, then I'll back right off completely. I believe it would start with faster heart rate, anxiety, headaches, that type of thing. Um, so I'm just looking at some of my notes here. Um, I know yesterday my wife Deb, she had a couple weak moments. She had one cigarette, and it was hard getting over that, abstaining while she had a cigarette. You know, um, and then yesterday she offered me a cigarette and I turned it down. And thankfully, it was right after I gave myself 4 shots of that Nicorette Quick Mist. So I knew that that cigarette she was offering me um, wouldn't have any effects because I've already received the nicotine, so it'd be a null cigarette, and then I would just feel that sense of failure if I had smoked it. So I resisted temptation twice yesterday, so good for me. Just looking over my notes here. Another thing, I think, like if a person were to go cold turkey, and I used to do this back in the day, is I would stay up as late as I possibly could, sometimes for days, and then just sleep, most of the first day, and get that first day out of the way, because when you're sleeping, you're unconscious, and when you're unconscious, you don't feel the cravings. So I just wanted to mention that. My wife Deb had this interesting idea of chewing a Nicorette while smoking on an electronic cigarette. And of course, you know that electronic cigarettes here in Canada don't contain nicotine, and at the same time they don't they contain vegetable glycerin, which has a negligible toxicity and is quite safe to the lungs compared to cigarette smoke. So, yeah. Oh, cinnamon sticks is something I wanted to mention. I've used those in the past. Those rolled up cinnamon sticks, they're really handy because you suck on them and you can feel the cinnamon flavor hit the back of your throat, and you feel like you're getting something. It's kind of like mimicking that smoking motion. Um, so sucking on those cinnamon sticks, I found are one of the most natural but most psychologically helpful methods I found. And for some reason, eating carrots works too. And I've heard a lot of hype about licorice root. So, this is day 2, and I'm gonna end this video here because it's gone on long enough. And I don't know. Experiment, document, whatever method works for you. Cheers.